in France, when it was talked about that people were hungry, if they don't have bread, let them eat cake. The leader will become delusional. And that's why we should watch it. When a leader becomes delusional about the pains of the people, a nation is already in regret. And it's just a matter of time. A nation in regret is a nation where the moral compass is missing. There is no accountability. In fact, the lack of accountability becomes a formidable point in which the nation stands on. And the truth has to be said. When a nation starts to lack accountability, it will never care about the poorest of the poor. Imagine Nigeria today. Healthcare is a big challenge. There's a young man that reached out to me that, please, we are raising money for, and if you can help us. And I'm raising the money in partnership with Dr. Aziz. Dr. Aziz is a medical doctor. He also runs sort of like a cancer foundation. We would like to beg, if you have anything, to be able to do, we beg, please, do your best and see what we can do to help this man. Please, do your best. Let us see what we can do to help this man. I'm going to give out Dr. Aziz's number now. I'll try to give out Dr. Aziz's number now. If you want to know more about this man's pain, Dr. Aziz's number is 0803 870 4798. 0803 870 4798. He is handling the case of a young man that has cancer. This man has a cancer. They have sent us the medical reports. He also needs a job. Dr. Aziz is estimating about 10 million that can be used to be able to help him. You can call Dr. Aziz to get more details. As regards that quest, nothing is too small. These are part of the many things that we do for humanity. A nation where you don't have health care is a nation that is in regress. Today, with all the wealth we have, why is it that healthcare has eluded a lot of Nigeria? The National Health Insurance Scheme that is supposed to provide health care, what has become of it? I mean, these are the questions we need to ask. People now pay out of pocket for health care. They look for money. They send messages to people to help them raise money. They seek help because the system that is first supposed to adopt them can't adopt them. The hospitals are not properly funded. Take, for instance, in Nigeria, the health minister said only 10% of the health budgets, 10% of the health budget, capital health budget, has been spent. So how do we get new facilities to the hospitals? How do we get help to people that need help? So we have a lot of pain, a lot of penury. In over 10 years, I have raised millions if not a lot of millions. I don't want to put a figure as regards many healthcare challenges. We have a society that people that even walk when they have a medical emergency cannot even come up with the money. And these are medical emergencies of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. But this was the same country that in the 70s, the Saudi royal family used to come to University of Ibadan to get their health care. This was the same country that I was talking to a doctor recently that said people used to leave Canada to come and give birth in UCH because they felt UCH had one of the best gynecologists in the world. People used to come. And UCH indeed had good doctors. The likes of Adeyi Lambo. I finally went up to the World Health Organization where people that worked out of UCH. In fact, the problem of UCH started in the early 80s when the standard started to fall because of lack of governmental intervention and because of corruption, all being occasioned by over $30 billion were owing in activities around import licensing and other wasteful spending. So most provision took a hit, finally suffered for it with the SAP conversation, and finally took a measure where the lives of people were devalued. So we lost our crown as a nation because of the ineptitude of our leaders. A nation in regress, we have a deplorable healthcare system. Today, in the last 10 years, the question we should ask is, what state-of-the-art, modern, that can compete with world-best hospitals do we have? What healthcare system do we have? Smaller countries have big healthcare partners. Look at what's happening in India. All of a sudden, India became a place for medical tourism. Although some private individuals are coming into Nigeria, setting up facilities and centers of excellence, but how affordable is it for the generality of Nigerians? What about the government system? A nation in decline is a nation where the leaders are so quick to run abroad, where we could have developed our healthcare center. The question we should ask is, all the facilities we bought during COVID, where are they? Where are they? Where are all the pre-COVID facilities and post-COVID facilities? Where are they? What happened to all the COVID contracts? Where are they? So, a nation in decline is not hard to know. But it has to be said. See, what we should tell the leaders is, they should listen to the yearnings of the heart of the people when a nation is in decline. They should listen to the yearnings of the heart of the people. Because empires come and go. Empires will come and go. It's not always going to be like this forever. Imperial nations will come and they'll go. But what will matter the most will be the legacy they leave in the lives of the people. Today, UCH in Ibadan now become a hospital where they protest that they didn't have electricity. Where are the centers of excellence? Have you gone to a primary healthcare center in recent times? I have cleaned that. What are the facilities there? When you even donate to primary healthcare center, it's very difficult for accountability. The truth has to be said. Anything government now is not taking a lackadaisical approach. No accountability, no capacity to be able to run things. Yes, somebody sent me a message. The person with abdominal cancer. I have announced your case this morning. If you are listening, I've told them to call Dr. Aziz. I've given Dr. Aziz's number. I've said they should call and see how they can raise money for you. Let's see how much we can raise so that you begin your treatment. That was why I called Dr. Aziz's number for the man that's down with abdominal cancer. It's really affecting his life and livelihood. In fact, they have to put a device in his stomach for him to live as we speak. Again, to call to be able to help that man, 0803 870 4798. 0803 870 4798. That's to call to help that man. We'll keep doing the best we can and ensure that we're able to reach out to as many people we can. A nation in regress is when the politicians will say they are the ones that made people, that the people's input are not there. You'll have been hearing when people are telling people in Nigeria, I made you governor, I made you this, I made you that. And the people are there watching. So that means the joke is on us. It is the people that should determine an election, not an individual saying you paid another person. So is it that one individual that voted, that individual that have one vote, is the one that voted on behalf of other people? Signs of a nation in regress is when people are telling you, I made you, shut up, sit down there. And a politician that is supposed to serve the interests of the people is God unto himself. That cannot make a society move forward. A nation in regress is a nation where you have big convoys by politicians and private jet leading. And these are people that we know that they had nothing before they got into power. If you think I'm lying, ask them to show you what factory that they built or what asset that they built before they got into politics. Everything they've ever earned in their life is the Commonwealth of people and Commonwealth of Nigeria. For them, as long as they got into politics, they became stupendously rich. So these politicians do not make the life of other people better. There are people in certain communities that have not had light in many years. But these politicians, they drive around on bad roads with SUVs. It's not an indication of a nation in regret when politicians live in a country where young girls cannot afford sanitary pads. Period poverty is a big problem, but you have government officials that have iPads that they don't know what to do with it. How do we fix a nation in regret? Number one, accountability. And that's why woe betide people that say don't hold politicians accountable. Your commonwealth is being squandered, and you're saying don't hold them accountable. That's why I always hold politicians accountable. That's why I'm always asking, like in your state, the proposal they are trying to say they want to renovate Do you need to renovate when the people are suffering? If the government house is there and you want to leave it, your original resident of the Prime Minister of Canada, 24 Sussex Street, is also abandoned because the people, the Canadian Prime Minister know that their society will hold them accountable if they spend any amount that is overboard on that. One, Google and research. So what's this craze about renovating these apartments that the governor doesn't even stay in your state? If we want to renovate it, we can call in private sector to renovate portions of them and name the halls after those private companies. Let's be circumspect. We must hold leaders accountable. It's only in Nigeria that when you ask a leader to produce how he spent money, he can't produce it, not to abuse you. And he pays some data boys to be abusing you. And I look at the lives of those data boys. The lives of those data boys are not any better. There are many of them that we still give money to and help. So how do we make life better for everybody? That's what we are fighting for. Please do not support evil. Ask for accountability. Also, accountability should be the order of the day with your election process. A nation that can't have proper election reform is a nation in regrets. When the people do not trust the electoral system, it becomes the president. So the truth is, people will not go out to vote when they don't trust the electoral system. That's why you see that even in the last election, a lot of people came out. Majority of Nigerians didn't come out. Not up to 30 million people voted for who became president, and you have over 90, close to 90 million, over 90 million electoral register. And not up to 30 million people decided who became president. It's because people are set down. They don't care again. But you can't afford not to care because you, the rest of the 60 million people that decided not to come out to vote in the last election. The truth is, the decisions these leaders are now making is affecting your life. Look at inflation. Look at devaluation. So I want you to think. And think closely. And let's also help the man that has abdominal cancer. I was supposed to have a guest this morning. I've called him a couple of times, not picked up. Let me see if we can reach him again to join up. So that we can discuss matters of national importance this morning. Let's hope he joins us. Accountability, number one. The people must be part of the electoral process. Number two, the people must be aware of their rights. As you are like this, have you ever read the Nigerian Constitution? Do you know what it even says about your rights? If you have not read the Nigerian Constitution and you're not accountable, you can never be accountable in anything. People will deceive you. It's time for the interview. Please join us up. Join us up on the link I sent you, sir. Morning, sir. Yeah. So people will never be accountable. And once they are not accountable, you can never get anything right out of this country if people are not accountable. You can never get anything right. So please, I need to tell you this again. You can't give up on your country. Because if the country is in decline, continues, the politicians that cause the decline will run away. You will be the one to suffer it more. They have other things to do. They have other places to go. It's you and I that have nothing and nowhere to go. Constitutional awareness, and that's why on this platform VOP we've supported what's his name, Randy, that goes around talking about electoral reform. And we must also hold INEC accountable. I have always said you cannot have sane elections when it's the president that decides to become INEC chairman. Those were the things that in the weight report were written many years ago, but they've not implemented that part. You cannot have sane elections where it's the president that partakes in the election that determines who becomes the INEC chief. We need a proper electoral reform. But you know, they just cherry-pick some things. And for all of you that are saying I should come out and run for politics, that's the highest level of also national delusion in this country. It is because the mindset of people have become toxic. That's why they think everybody must do politics. If that mindset of people have become toxic, everybody in the nation will not do politics. There are some people that will stand on the fringes that will do accountability, that will do the nation. A nation has different sides. A nation will have writers, engineers, politicians, people that will ask for accountability, scientists. That's what makes a nation. So you thinking one person must go into politics? Not everybody must go into politics. We must not all go into politics. We must do our work in different fields, but we must also hold the politician accountable. So this idea of running for politics is an indication of a national malaise, and it's so sad. That was how when I went to inaugurate my library and started doing a lot of my charity works and my foundation. People started asking me, do I want to do politics? We should. In fact, it's because people are jobless. That's why everybody is going to politics. It's joblessness that make everybody go to politics. The fact that politics is selling is an indication of national joblessness. They are not companies again. A lot of people that ought to be in companies working are doing senior special assistants. They are copying and writing what another man is saying. They are saying they are doing spokesman. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Timmy Frank with us, and we're going to ask him some top political questions this morning. Great to have you, Oga Timmy Frank. You can put on your camera, and you can watch this also on our page on VOP. Great to have you, my Oga. Unmute yourself, Oga. Unmute yourself. Very good. I can hear you loud and clear. Oga, how you doing now?
I'm okay. Great. How are you?
Thank you. Sorry for waking you up this early. You know, Timmy Frank is one of those people that speaks it the way it is and says it the way it is. It's been across board with the political parties, though. Great part of the founding of APC is in the PDP. A lot of people have accused that Oga Timmy Frank has worked out from year to year, but he's a man that says it the way it is. I want to ask you, is it not an indictment on Fubara now that they have gone to take the same deal that a lot of people have talked about? And now he has gone back to his master, Wiki, and they are saying, Master, I salute you. They are attending weddings together now. It's not an indictment of Fubara and the fact that people can act like God in our society.
Well, you are very right. To some of us, we will always speak the truth. I think Fubara is an embarrassment to the political class, so far as I'm concerned. And I think he's a pretender and he's a deceiver. One thing Fubara needs to know, whatever decision he must have taken, the questions still remains. Who did he consult in his political family? Who did he consult within his supporters, within his cabinet. Because if you look at those pictures and those videos when they went to the presidential villa, Wike went on that meeting with all his supporters, the people involved, the state assembly members, and other stakeholders of his camp. But Fubara went there like an orphan. Why did he go there in such kind of a high-powered meeting? That shows clearly he has thrown everybody, not just in Rivers State, but in Nigeria and across board, that stood by him in the face of injustice, in the face of intimidation. Difficult time for him. He that look clearly, even his own deputy governor in such kind of meeting can't even go with your deputy governor. Can't you go with people that can stand witness on your own side? So if Fubara knows that this day will come for him to bow to pressure, why did he start the struggle? Why did he mislead people? Why did he decide to throw the entire world under the box? Because he wants to come back to power. And it's very clear he's going to be the first governor in Nigeria that will be a governor, but that will be like a pig, even to the Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly. Because at this point in time, because of his desperation to come back to power, he has decided to go and sign. If I'm Fubara, then which means from day one. In fact, what he signed now is more detrimental to him than when the crisis started earlier on. We saw the conditions then, and we've seen the conditions now. So if you look at the both conditions from that time till now, it's better for him to sign what they gave to him as at that time. But it's sad that the people that will suffer whatever Fubara must have signed is the good people of Rivers State. And
so maybe they're saying whatever Fubara would have signed with Wiki and President Tinubu, because they are all part of it together, is not in the interest of people of Rivers State. And what do you think they must have signed? Because I've not seen any deal. It's not like the last one that we saw the printout of the deal. What did they sign this time around?
Well, we've been seeing so many things flying, but I want to tell you, it might not be too far from the truth, what we are seeing flying, even if it's not yet made official for us to know, because they are keeping it secret to themselves. But me and you know how Nigeria works today. In most cases, majority of the things that you see in social media, at least 70%, most time is the real deal of what they must have signed. Okay, if Fubara knows and is sincere, let him publish, if he's transparent, what they must have told him to do, that is now making him to do yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, to now jumping like a chicken around Wiki, to now jumping like a chicken around everybody around Wiki. So it's very clear that from what we are seeing, they've told him he's going to do just one term, just to complete his tenure, if they are going to bring him back.
Do we have facts for that? Because
that is what I'm saying. Well, what I'm saying is, it might not be true, it might be true, but if that is the case, these things have been flying. Fubara should come up and tell us these are not true. This is a true position. They will now believe, okay, what we are saying is not true, but as at now, himself has not said anything, or neither anybody around him. And in confidence, I spoke to one of his close allies after my interview yesterday with TVC. Somebody very close to him confirmed to me and said, I'm not happy with what my man must have done, but some of us who told him our position in this decision he has taken. And I said, well, for me, I regret giving Fubara my support, and I know and I believe so many Nigerians regretted. So if these things are not true, let Fubara speak and said, I signed a peace deal for the interest of Rivers people. And these were the conditions. And I think the conditions will not just benefit me, but to benefit the bigger picture or the bigger interest of the Rivers people.
Okay.
So
let me open
the weaker I know, the weaker I know,
yes.
you have put some stuff, the weaker I know and the weaker you know. And with the President Tinubu, you know, they know the guy is desperate, they know the guy is vulnerable. So they would have given him some strong conditions to let him know, if you want to come back, sign this deal. If you don't want to come back, then forget about it. And the guy wants to come back by all courts.
Okay. 0818-099-1991. The number to call us and join us live this morning. 0818-099-1991. We've talked about urination and the redress. We've also talked about, we're also talking with Tim right now about the Fubara Wike's. But a lot of people said the PDP also let him down because Wike had also taken over the PDP and the PDP was in disarray. So there was no way he was going to be able to fight back. And a lot of people still say that your man and your friend and your boss, Atiku Abubakar, is to be blamed for all the problems in the PDP as we speak today. Let me take this call quickly. Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Morning, what's your name? Speak up, please. Yes, speak up. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, it's me, Frank, is here listening to you.
Yeah, you see, there was something that Ahmed said because of that struggle, that election. He said that the worst mistake that could happen would be to swear in and development ability. That may be the end of democracy. I don't think you should remember that example. Now, the truth that this is a man that claims to be a Democrat. And look at what is happening. That is not democratic. And people are saying it now that people are attacking people with, like. But it's unfortunate that people have done that lately and used to correct some of these anomalies of when it comes to it's so shameful. So, but it's unfortunate that people are giving way. So, if we can continue like this, so be it. But for me, we are heading to. There was one thing I saw this man was saying, that is heading to no get it. It's unfortunate because this is not how the country should be. Should be going at people and go through. So, I'm afraid it's something that is not done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Timmy, did you hear him there?
Yeah, it was a bit fainty.
It was a bit faint, but what he was also saying that they feel disappointed that Fubara disappointed a lot of people. But people say Atiku was the problem. The Wike conundrum has happened in the PDP. That Wike owns the PDP as we speak today, and there's nothing you guys are going to do about it. In fact, Saraki was saying that more people are going to go, and then some people are going to stay. That the PDP will, but do you think you guys can come out of all of this, or the PDP is dead, or maybe you are going to Ada, or where are you going now?
Well, for me, the PDP is its own problem. When you have a leadership that cannot stand firm and stand for the truth or justice, then the party will be the casualty at the end of the day as the party. When people say Atiku is the problem, Atiku is just one man in the party. Atiku cannot just take decision on his own. It's a party whereby you might bring your proposal. If majority turned it down, there's nothing you can do. Every one thing that would have survived PDP has been what Atiku stood for. whenever they go submitting, and this is a party where you have governors, if there is anybody to be blamed in this party, the governors are more to be blamed, because we've seen that in most cases, if the governors decide to take a position when it comes to party issues, and they stand together and take that position, that is the end of any other person's view or argument, because the governors are more and majority at all times. So, but today you have a party where the governors are now transactional people who does not have faith or believe in the platform that gives them the opportunity to serve. This is the first time we've seen in Nigeria where opposition governors are now like chicken. All they are after. Maybe sometimes I ask if these governors does not know the powers they have as governors. Maybe the governors we have today, maybe they are different from the governors we have from 99. So it's very sad that this set of governors does not even put the interest of Nigerians at heart. The interest of the states they are representing. All they are after is how to protect their office. And that is why one president will sit down somewhere and act like a dictator, and nobody seems to challenge him when it comes to the issue of governance. Rufai, you do more as a person today in Nigeria than put the entire governors of Nigeria would do. In terms of criticizing evil acts.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you this, Frank? What does Wiki have for most people in the PDP that they can't challenge him? Has he done something for them in the past? Is that something that he signed with them that can't make them challenging when he goes out at all of them? It's as if he has a lot on all of them. Because when he does all of it, nobody can challenge him. They are so afraid of him.
It's because most of them are compromised. Most of them are greedy.
What's the compromise here?
They've come one way or the other. Those ones that has held political office one way or the other, is because maybe they are corrupt or they've done some certain things that they believe that if they don't succumb to this man, he's going to deal with them, he's going to expose them, he's going to jail them. I can tell you clearly, in most cases, when people talk that articles, in most cases when they go for PDP meetings, because they know the position of Atiku, whenever he speaks to advise the party to take the right path, the governors will gang up and mobilize members of the party to turn down whatever decision he was about to make.
I put it to you, which is the leader of your party as we speak?
Well, it's the leader of those that believe is their leader, because I don't see him as my leader.
Okay, let me take a call. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Speak up, please.
The one that calling.
You are not speaking up, madam. You are not speaking up. You are not speaking. I can't hear you properly. Please speak up. So you say it's not your leader, but it's the leader of. He's been able to hold the party by the jugular. He decides the fate of the party.
He's the leader of those he has been able to
taking everything.
He has been able to watch.
A lot of people will say, you people can just be talking from afar, but you have not been able to stop any of his onslaughts. That's just it. And I want to talk to you about Ganduje. Let me take this call. Hello, how are you? Please speak up.
Hello. Well, my name is Chief. I'm the one that calling you.
Yeah, what is the matter?
I wanted to help me for some money to start.
But you called last week now, and we helped you, right?
Yes.
So I will put your number out there. It is not us that will generate the money. It is the people, the kindness of people that will do it. And this is what I told you last week.
Yes,
So we have given the best we can do is to put your number out there. It's not by calling constantly. We put your number out there. Let people decide.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ojo, Lagos.
Okay. Go ahead. Talk to us. We have to meet Frank here. Yes.
See, because of this stage, if we want to overhaul our health system, someone like Yaya Bello should not be allowed to go out for treatment. Let them take him to any federal hospital in Nigeria. If he doesn't get good health care, let them give him the treatment they gave this man. I was calling off in British prison now. So if Yaya Bello, if he got even one good hospital in Kogi, I'm not sure if we're trying to get an escape route by saying it's great for treatment. Is it better than other people?
Okay, so what you're saying is that our political leaders should stay in Nigeria for their health care.
They should put it down. They should not go. She not go to France.
Yeah. Okay, President Tinubu should also stay here. Hello, how are you?
My number is 070.
But you okay, call your number, but you called it last week now. It's not when you call constantly.
So when I call last week, it's not good.
No, but you called last week. You called a week before last, and I answered you. Madam, let people turn up. If they want to do, they'll do for you. Huh? All of this we are doing just to help you, man. You've called last week. Let those people turn up. Please, thank you. So, as we're saying, I want you to talk about Ganduje. Like I said, I put it to you that Wike is the owner of the PDP as we speak today, and nothing can be done about it. But all doesn't seem well to your former party. Some are saying it's political calculation that now they are going to set the pace for the emergence of a chairman of the party, so that probably they can take the vice presidential slot to maybe the Northwest region or the likes. There was a fake news, but it's been debunked that they've even made this SGF the party chairman, but no, it's been debunked. It's fake news. Don't believe that. Let's talk about Ganduje. Let's talk about the fact that Wike is the leader of your party. And you say because they've been compromised. Not really. Most of the time, is it because they've collected something from Wike? That's why they can't face Wike.
When I mean, that is what I'm trying to tell you. Remember when Wike was governor? Most of these leaders of PDP today used to go to River State and used to be his ally. 70% of them in this party, he was funding them, including most of the people today, trying to abuse him, people like Bode George and the rest of them. Maybe because the payment stopped. But these are people who said Wike was their son. And they were supporting him when Wike was doing the wrong things. When some of us were challenging the party to do the right thing, most of the people today, we are all with Wike, including governors. We are following Wike like PAs. And those governors today, half of PDP governors that you can think of today, or more, are following Wike like PA. They don't even act like governors. He used to carry them whenever it's going to London and Spain, and they used to do like a shebi anytime they meet and call themselves some kind of names. So including those ones that was in G5 and those ones that was not in G5, most of them today that is trying to, come up as if they are fighting, they were all like his boys. This is the first time in Nigeria we've seen where governors are boys to their fellow governor. Governors are boys to a minister. We've never seen it before. So tell me, how can such kind of people today come and tell him, we don't want you to speak, we don't want you to be leading? It will expose him, and Wike doesn't keep quiet. The day you speak is the day he will tell you how much you've collected from him. So most of them must have not liked him right now, but they cannot speak, they cannot say anything, including the acting national chairman Damagu today. Those ones, the entire NWC, maybe you cannot talk, maybe about few of them that might be people who are opposing him. But the NWC are under its payroll. So even if they decide to take a decision that they believe, that is going to kill the party, but they will do it because they are afraid of Wike. So that is why I said the party is compromised. So the party is its own problem. And majority of the party people are their own problem. So nobody should bring the party problem to one man called Atiku Abubakar, which have done well for the party.
So you being an Atiku's man, are you people going to add that? What's your plan? Or are you going to stay in this PDP that is dead already?
Well, I will tell you clearly, everybody is waiting for the decision of Atiku, which is going to make a decision in the next coming days publicly to Nigerians. And whatever decision he takes, maybe that day will be the end of PDP. Because the true lovers of democracy that are still remaining, look, let me tell you, by the time Atiku leaves, anybody you see in PDP, just know.
So that means Atiku is leaving. So that means Atiku is leaving. That means Atiku is leaving PDP, because he said by the time Atiku leaves, so that means he's leaving, right? He's going to be leaving PDP soon. That's what it means.
Is that decision will be made? Consultations are going on. So if majority of his supporters says he should leave, he's going to leave. And as I speak,
so that means he might probably leave.
He might probably leave, yes, because the consultation is going on with him. Atiku is not just somebody who just takes decision on his own. He likes to take everybody along. And it goes by, the decision of the majority within his camp. And a lot of persons, I will tell you clearly, want him to leave. A lot of persons are not happy because they believe most of the people in PDP today, most of the leaders have compromised to APC, are compromised to Bola Tinubu.
So if he leave, will he be going to Ada?
Ada is not yet registered.
Okay.
He's not yet registered. But I know if he decides to leave, whatever the coalition party is, that party that is going to go to, because he is the champion and believer of this
but a lot of people say, so Atiku be thinking of running for president at this age. That's why a lot of people say he's the problem. That by now he should have left it for the next generation. Now what does he want to come and do? That he's spent already, that he's finished politically. That's what some people are saying here. Secondly, I also want you to talk about Ganduje, but let's take this call. Hello? 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 Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ambassador Musba. Talk to me.
This is Ambassador Rufai here.
Yeah.
I want your guests to know one thing. We've been speaking, but why disagree with you with somebody to give it to Atiku? Atiku is the big box for the problem we are having in Nigeria today. So we say, I support one president now. Yes, I support the president. But if Atiku play the role, APC will not have won the election number 23. But Atiku factor, and we pay, and Obi, give role for APC. But to me, I must see them as politicians who ready mean well for Nigeria. But when your people are away, when Atiku lost the political appointment, he traveled. He allowed the party to be disarray. And we can pick up the things. We want to play with it. We can have the opportunity and they took the opportunity to stabilize the political party, the PDP. All of us are here and then left PDP that time. So I can't play with it. What all we is doing now is taking the trade and the start that instead of it to rubbish me, what you did at the Congress, I'm not to pay you back. That's what is going on. I can't play with it at all.
Okay. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador Musba. I'm sure you are hearing some of the comments. These are the people calling. These are the things they have against Atiku. Hello, how are you? Yeah, please speak up quickly.
You are calling from Abuja.
Go ahead, talk to us from Abuja.
I don't think we can have done anything wrong because
Your line is not clear at all, my brother. You say you don't think we have done anything wrong. It's not clear, but get a new. So you see that things they are saying. They say Atiku should go and rest. That why is he running? What does he have to? That has nothing to give. That is the origin of the problem. That when he went away, Wike was the one being with the party and staying with the party. That Wike has not done anything wrong. That he feels betrayed. That he too should be able to reap where he sowed. What do you say about that?
Well, people have their own opinion, and they are entitled to their own opinion. But I will tell you, majority of the people still believe Atiku can do the job. When we talk about Atiku is old, Rufai, the president of America today and Atiku, who is older?
Trump.
For a country like America that is a world power, that is a superpower, that is a power where they have everything going. If the Americans, where are the young people in America? There were young people in Republicans who wanted to run for president. Where were they? Why didn't they beat Trump? They were younger people in in Democratic Party at that time when we have Trump and Biden. So the issue, what is killing Nigeria, Rufai? Our problem is not age. When people keep talking about age is not our problem. We've seen countries where their presidents are old, but they are performing. It's a thing of capacity. It's a thing of, if you have fit and you think you can do the job, and the people decide to elect you, then go for the job.
But people are saying that Atiku has been running before. He's been running before.
Buhari ran 4 times. Buhari ran 4 times before he became president of Nigeria. Rufai, if you have an ambition, don't kill it because people are saying. Do it. Only God knows when. Where there was a time a president in America ran for 5 times before he became president of the United States. So that is somebody's ambition. It's his ambition. So only God knows who becomes president and who will not become president.
Okay.
Sometimes
yes. What people are also asking is, okay, so what is this that Atiku really have that he wants to come and give to Nigerians at this age? That they say he served as vice president. What is it that he has? Let's take more calls from the people because it's an interactive something. Hello, your comments quickly. Hello, how are you?
Oh, sorry, I think I'm talking to Carlton.
What? Yes, this is Rufai. Go ahead. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Okay, good morning.
Yeah, what's your name?
Yeah, I'm calling from just Benin City precisely.
Okay, I'm calling from Benin City. Thank you for joining us on Global Radio, VOP.
My name is Collins.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, please, Mr. Rufai, we appreciate you. We said that we choose to contribute on this platform.
Yeah.
I'm one of your
go ahead, my brother. There's no time. I appreciate you to go ahead.
Let me tell you something, man. Nigerians, we are not ready yet. We are not ready yet to move forward. I want also use this opportunity to tell this man that we talked on. We should not be comparing the policies that we play in Nigeria with the ones that we play in America.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand.
Yeah.
So, for now, we have 3 major options in Nigeria today. If Nigeria are ready to move forward, President Tinubu know what to do if you want to win the second term. Nigerians also know what to do. They want to remove President Tinubu from power. Why the opposition? Why the people that are forming coalition? They also know what to do. To remove, are they coming to rescue Nigeria? They are asking for power. Let's be very realistic to each other. We are deceiving ourselves in this country. The people that are in power today, they know how to play dirty politics more than any other political party in Nigeria. Without being we need to tell ourselves the truth. Let us tell ourselves the truth. PDP is a corner party. PDP is nowhere to be found. Let's just be very sincere.
PDP is dead, right? That's what you're saying. It's a corner party. Gone.
We shouldn't be deceiving ourselves.
Okay.
They know what to do if they want to rescue Nigeria. They have no pipeline Nigeria they can raise now that Nigeria people should follow.
But you don't want Atiku. For you don't want Atiku.
No. Atiku is not. Let me tell you something. This man, I want to correct you for one thing. Atiku might be good for the job, but the chances of getting to that place is very slim.
Okay.
Nigerians are angry now. Nigerians they are not with him. Let us be very sincere. These are the people that drank up 2014. So you have a gentleman in the office. So that anger is in Nigeria.
Okay.
What you have to offer Nigeria?
Okay.
You people plan.
Thank you. He needs to respond. We need to go quickly. Real quickly. Thanks. Oh yeah. He's saying no Atiku and all of that. Some of the sentiments, like you were saying, respond to you because we need to wrap up in the next 3-4 minutes. And I also want you to touch on Gambi Day. Yeah.
Rufai, let me tell you clearly. Atiku has the support of Nigerian people. Some people have their views to say, well, we don't want him. But let's wait when the time comes.
Yeah.
If the party decides and it decides to run, if any party decides to, whether PDP or any other party decides to, if the delegates decide to choose him, then which means he's the candidate of the people. If Nigerians decide to vote for him, it is going to be the choice of Nigerians. So I don't believe in anybody stopping anybody from running. It is only God that has the spiritual power to know who have the capacity and who did not have the capacity. So when people speak, some of them speak sometimes from sentiment. If Atiku runs 10 times, I'll support him 10 times. Because I am with him, I know his ideology, I know his belief, I know what he thinks. He's a businessman. How many presidents we've had in Nigeria today, any of the past presidents who has the business thinking, business structure like this man? So Atiku is a different politician, whether you like it or not.
President Tinubu says the businessman, he owns TVC, he owns many media outlets, he owns many businesses. He's an accountant, that's what he said.
My brother, how many of them you can tie to him that he can beat his chest to come and tell you these businesses are my business today in Nigeria? With his mouth.
Says the businessman. He's a businessman. So all of them have said they are businessmen.
Oh, no, see, the antecedent to show you. Peter Obi is a businessman, no doubt. It's antecedent to show you. The things he has that he can come out to public and tell you, I have this business. Let Tinubu come and tell us with his mouth. We're only here by speculation, by rumor, by this, by that. And you understand what I'm trying to say, Rufai?
Yeah.
So Peter Obi can come out and tell you, I own this business, I ran this business before I became governor and after governor. Atiku can tell you clearly, I'm part of this company, I'm part of this business. Before he became vice president, until date, he can tell you, this business are my businesses. But we've not seen the president today to come and tell us, I'm the owner of this. Outside being people speculating, people, thinking and saying all kind of things. Okay. So if you ask me,
my brother,
is a businessman, yes. Atiku is a businessman.
We just have 1 minute to go. We have 1 minute to go. Quickly tell us about what you're reading on this WJ's, resignation as chair of APC.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. Whether you like it or not today, APC is confused. APC is G3. Whether they decide to accept it or not, Rufai, it's like when you are playing football and you are beating 3-0 already. You start benching and changing your players to see if you can equalize the goals. Right now, APC is trying to see if they can recover from Nigerians because they know as much as the president says the coalition leaders they are members of IDPs. As it stands, we are going to know when the time comes if APC is going to be the party of IDP or President Buhari and President Tinubu is a president of IDP. Nigerians will decide in the next 4 months.
I have to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Bless you so much. Thank you so much. I dig well for you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
6 here. On Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. 90.3 FM. Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Who is this? Oh yeah, this is VOP 90.3. From the views on the streets,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People, 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and passion for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Broadcasting live from the Cocoa News Center, giving you the latest updates around the globe. This is
VOP 90.3 FM.
My guy, you better upgrade yourself and live in the city like a big boy. Even if you don't want to stay outside, YouTube is always there for you, you know.
I know, but no be every time person go dey open eye for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook because of update.
My guy, don't worry yourself. Tune to Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM. Listen to a radio station that keeps you up to date with the current news and talk shows, as well as business programs.
How to find good business ideas in Nigeria.
Listen and learn.
6 powerful strategies for discovering opportunities to make money in the Nigerian market.
Contribute and let's make a better society together.
I think it's the best for us in Nigeria. Actually, we are going to find it difficult for the first time, but in future we are going to gain it. If we can be able to be patient with it, is the best.
Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM.
Tune in every day.
From the views on the streets,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, The loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and passion for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Broadcasting live from the Cocoa News Center, giving you the latest updates around the globe. This is
VOP 90.3 FM.
My guy, you better upgrade yourself and live in the city like a big boy. Even if you don't want to stay outside, YouTube is always there for you, you know.
I know, but no be every time person go dey open eye for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook because of update.
My guy, don't worry yourself. Tune to Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM. Listen to a radio station that keeps you up to date with the current news and talk shows, as well as business programs.
How to find good business ideas in Nigeria.
Listen and learn.
6 powerful strategies for discovering opportunities to make money in the Nigerian market.
Contribute and let's make a better society together.
I think it's the best for us in Nigeria. Actually, we are going to find it difficult for the first time, but in future we are going to gain it. If you can be able to be patient with it, it's the best.
Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM.
Truly, every day.
From the views on the streets,
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and passion for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Broadcasting live from the Cocoa News Center, giving you the latest updates around the globe. This is
VOP 90.3 FM.
My guy, you better upgrade yourself and live in the city like a big boy. Even if you don't want to stay outside, YouTube is always there for you, you know.
I know, but no be every time person go dey open eye for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook because of update.
My guy, don't Don't worry yourself. Tune to Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM. Listen to a radio station that keeps you up to date with the current news and talk shows, as well as business programs.
How to find good business ideas in Nigeria.
Listen and learn.
6 powerful strategies for discovering opportunities to make money in the Nigerian market.
Contribute and let's make a better society together.
I think it's the best for us in Nigeria. Actually, we are going to find it difficult for the first time, but in future we are going to gain it. If you can be able to be patient with it, it's the best.
Voice of the People's Radio, VOP 90.3 FM.
Tune in every day.
Of African countries. I was vice president of the World Bank, and I wanted to fix that nonsense of African countries not getting the benefit of additional money. So the issue has been, how is it that one group of people used their assistance well, and another group of people mostly ended up with poor results? Germany was a heap of rubble. Assistance for South Korea, for Japan. It's happened across the world. For not just to Germany. Europe was leveled. So there was development assistance to rebuild it. There was development assistance.
Hey there and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. I promise you we have an exciting show, a great one for that matter. And on this episode, we've crossed the borders. We just didn't go to, our neighbors here, down here, East Africa. No, we've gone further. And we have a guest from Nigeria. And because her CV is rich and huge, I had to write it down so I don't miss something. I have with me Dr. Obi. And before she takes onto the mic, she's the president of Human Capital Africa and senior economic advisor at the Africa Economic Development Policy Initiative. She has also served as the vice president of the World Bank's Africa region and has held ministerial positions in Nigeria overseeing minerals and later education. Of course, now she's the founder and chairperson of the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which was established after the Fix Politics initiative. And she's also the convener of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign in Nigeria, if you remember that some years back. So I am not done with her CV, but if I go on, that will take pretty much of our time. So let me go straight to Dr. Obi. Yeah. Welcome to Kenya.
Thank you, Sarah.
Such an honor to have you.
I am excited to be in your space.
When you hear people introduce you with such huge, rich introduction, how does it make you feel?
I always say to them, just say, this is Obi Ezekwesili. Welcome her to the stage.
So welcome Dr. Obi, how did you pronounce?
Ezekwesili.
Ezekwesili, to the stage of Alpha House. Yes. How are you finding Kenya so far?
Well, this is one of the countries on the continent I find myself coming to more frequently than a whole lot of the others. There are many things that bring me to Kenya. And Nairobi is a very important capital for that continent. There are many global things that happen here. There are continental things that happen here. And I'm deeply fond of the Kenyans. They remind me very much of the Nigerians.
In a good way?
Yes, in a good way. A lot of your neighbors call you the Nigerians of East Africa because they think you're too candid. You're the ones who are always in a hurry to get something done compared to the rest. So we do share some striking similarities.
All right, at least it's on the good side.
No, yeah, I've always said that, Kenyans, and this was something that I would say in my days in the world of development. I always said that Kenyans are world-class people who, like my own people, unfortunately, have not been led by world-class leaders.
You've really started our conversation on high. What are they saying about us and our leadership out there at the moment?
I think that the positive side of it is what people are saying about the gregariousness, the relentlessness of your young Kenyans, the famous Gen Zs, and let's not forget the millennials. We're making it sometimes seem like millennials are now very old people. They really aren't. They're the ones that we entered the millennium, really seeing them come to puberty and then growing into their 30s now. And what you have become, what the Kenyan young people have become is a symbol of the lack of interest of the younger demographic of our continent to maintain the status quo. That gives me enormous joy, because the status quo has not been in any way productive. It's not been in any way I'm trying to find the right word to strike this meaning. It's not been in any way visionary enough to translate the enormous possibilities of our continent to the optimal possibilities of development. And so when I see the relentlessness of the young Kenyans, the Gen Zs, the millennials, demanding for more, that for me is the expression of the new Africa we should have.
So that is the image that is out there about Kenya.
That is the image that is out there. I mean, what used to be out there about Kenya and Nigeria, famously in the wrong neighborhood when you do rankings of corruption, that used to be it. That used to be full and final stop, right?
Yeah.
They export coffee, they export tea, and then they have famously corrupt politicians. And then Nigeria, great oil nation, and where's the money from the oil? It's a corrupt society. End of story. But today, there is much more to it. Mm-hmm. There's much more. It's also your young generation that has exemplified the power of technology for our continent, and the same thing with our own young people too. So the similarities are much, and I want to dwell so much more on the future. I want to talk so much more about the positives that will frame the future.
Okay.
And when I look at the kind of social networks that are leading to collective action, and the fact that what the young people are saying is, we're here. You can't act like we don't exist. That's so important. That's agency, and such agency is necessary in a democracy. When I hear some people say, the democracy has not worked in Africa, I say, can you stop? if you evaluated what we've practiced, it really has not been democracy.
Okay, and when you look at these young people, for instance, in Kenya, what happened last year, where the whole Gen Z movement started, it's young people who got fed up with how the leadership was working. How do then the young people convert this, because it was anger, from anger to moving now to points of leadership, because we cannot then just sit and let the same people that angered us then move us to the next step.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so, but what I normally say is that anger is important because that triggers you into expression, right? Anger is an expression. If you sort of are getting a really bad deal, which is what a lot of Africans get from their political leaders, a lot of bad deal, where there's a huge disconnect between what could be produced through governance. Governance is the system through which, if you made the right sets of decisions on public issues, you would be able to have the kind of policies, the sound policies that would enable growth. If you made the right kinds of decisions for the interest of the public, you would have the right kinds of institutions anchored on the rule of law that give you the rules of the game, so that people can get the signal as to how that society rewards and punishes. So it rewards effort, it punishes bad behavior. And that's the whole institution's argument. Then if you have the right sets of public decisions, you would have the art of selecting the right investments to put public money into in order to provide public goods. So basic services that would support businesses and your citizens to be productive, to have an environment that is not laborious or onerous or limiting. So because when you supply basic services of education, of roads, of access to water, of just basic services of health, if you had that, then you can assure people that they would operate in environments that the transaction costs are not high. They can not only be productive, but they can be competitive in being productive. So because we have not had that, it means that the Africans have gotten bad deals from governance. And so when the young ones say, we're tired of it, and they express it in the form of anger, everyone who is reasonable should understand that. Okay? And, you understand that because the data, it's not just that they are angry for nothing. Yes. They are not angry for nothing. When you look at the data of Africa's performance, economically, socially, you can see clearly that there is no reason why Kenya should be where it is. There's no reason why Nigeria should be where it is. There's no reason why, most of the countries on the continent should be where they are, So that expression of anger was never there in most times, until the Gen Zs have picked up the gauntlet and they're saying, you know what? If our parents took it, we're not ready to take it. You've got to perform. You've got to show us. You're accountable to us. We want to see you do what you have been elected to do. That is number one for the continent. We should all be saying, bravo, bravo, bravo. Now, it means that we are not accepting of failure. Because an acceptance of failure is basically saying that failure is our destiny.
But your proposal is very good. However, we have not seen the young people received as that. And this is not just, let's say in Kenya, yes. We had a lot of police brutality. We've seen it in Mozambique. We saw it in Egypt, Nigeria.
We saw it everywhere.
Yeah, so why is it that then these leaders are not okay with these young people who are self-expressing and who actually are fighting for better countries and a better continent?
So if we connected the dots, why would a leader who has every reason not to fail, but failed, not be brutal in response to when you say you have failed? It's natural that they would not receive of the feedback they are getting. All right?
Yeah.
But I think that, to exhaust my thought on, this matter of they express the anger, but then where do we go from there? So I normally then say to the Gen Zs, your initial anger can be just an expression of anger, but then immediately you need to make it effective anger, which effective anger becomes the one that pushes you to saying, what's next? Well, let's define what we want in very coherent way and in ways that we all own that expectation that we are fighting for. Yeah. And then the next thing is, how do we sustain our engagement on this issue so that it is not a flash in the pan? So that becomes, what are the organizational systems through which we can maintain this level of technical engagement that's sophisticated, so that they don't say, don't you know, young people, they just like being angry, they just want to destroy things. Yeah. So just being able to have this strategic approach that builds on one phase onto another phase, they become so powerful, you can't ignore them. And there's power in number. There's power in number. The fact that not just a few of them. In the past, you would say, oh, civil society leaders should go and, no, that model is over. You don't need civil society leaders to be the ones fighting for the rest of them. They need to be fighting for themselves. And that's what they've done. So the next thing then becomes, because what they've done is to show that they are operating in what I call the office of the citizen. The office of the citizen is awake. The citizen suddenly realizes that just waiting for the office of the president, office of the minister, office of the governor, member of parliament, they are the suppliers of governance and they failed us. Therefore, on the demand side, we are awakening our office. We have awakened our office. And when you awaken that office, you have to have the tools of engagement. Yeah. So what I say to the Gen Zs is, don't quickly despair that your first set of engagement, you're wondering, okay, so what did we achieve? Or, where do we take this from? Okay, but now in your reflection mode, in your evaluation mode, you have to say to yourself, there were things we didn't get right. And now we have to redesign our approach. So I had an interview yesterday where I simply said, they need to understand the concept of collegiate leadership that is transparent. Because, there is a lot of trust issues that stand in the way of the Gen Z's movements, because they're saying if a couple of people go out there and they say they are leaders, they are going to betray us. Yeah. So we want everybody is a leader. Yes, I agree. That's why everybody owns their own office of the citizen. But in order for you to make the kind of progress that you need to make from one phase to another phase, you're going to need collegiate leadership that is transparent. You can design it. They are networked. These Gen Zs are networked. Yeah. So you can sort of say, let's design what a collegiate leadership that is transparent looks like. So the rest of us are still co-leading with this set of people who are transparently being mandated to engage. And that way, I say to them that you have to be evidence-based. You have to have empirical basis of engagement. If you leave it at the level of your anecdotes and your feelings and all of that, that's when you begin to misunderstand each other. Make it evidence-based. What are the things we're looking for? What is the data? I always say that, I have my mantra, which is that in God I trust, but every other person must bring data. So because so if we all agree the data, we already have a point of convergence, right? And so those who go for us and that transparently, we have mechanisms for keeping them transparent, and it's not 2 or 3 people going for us. It's a representative, collegiate group of people that are tied to us the decision-making process does not happen at their level.
Yeah.
It happens at our level. They can't go and say the youth have agreed. No, the youth haven't agreed until the youth have agreed.
So it has to begin with everyone involved at the base, and also people just understanding their role.
Precisely.
Because
division of labor.
Yeah.
Division of labor. You need this what I call the brain box. There has to be like a think tank amongst them. The ones who really can, take a public finance issue, for example, they understand it perfectly, and they are able to present what the alternative options could be. They're like policy. They're engaging on the matter of governance. So they have to be sophisticated in their arguments. All right. So you have to have your think tank immediately amongst you. You have to have the ones who have been, working on the issues of rural agriculture, or things that are related to the matters of the poor, the marginalized, the vulnerable. There are bodies of works that some of them that are out there on the street have done. So you have to recognize what everybody brings to the movement, and then you organize it in a way that you're very serious. If the Gen Zs got the strategy on this right, they are the government in waiting. Because they're simply saying, look at us, we have ideas of how things should go, but it cannot be ideas where you're making a statement that is totally out of sync with reality. You shouldn't be doing that, because immediately that discredits your basis for argument. That's why an evidence-based, well-organized kind of engagement, that's what people in office are normally afraid of.
That's so much wisdom, and I hope our Kenyan Gen Zs and millennials, you're taking notes on this, because this is what we need. Because I think the biggest challenge is also people just fighting each other when they show up in the limelight, which does not work for the good. And in line with that, in 2019, you ran for president in Nigeria.
Yes, I did.
What were your lessons and experiences? And if you were to do the same today, how different would it be, considering now the generation you're dealing with, even in Nigeria, is much younger?
Yes. So the first thing is, how did I end up running for office? I, who was known to be totally anti-politics. It was because I wasn't a Gen Z in 2019.
Of course.
I'm 62 years old, so I wasn't a Gen Z by any definition of it. But I have been one who, when I was what you could call a Gen Z, had stood up against the military in my country.
Oh.
Yes.
Did you want to run a coup?
No. I was calling out the military for poor governance and for corruption. It wasn't normal. In fact, they used to ask my mom whether I was suicidal. I was one of those that would, go against anything. And, so I was a Gen Z in my generation, as you would say.
Yeah.
Because I understood, I was quite young when I said to my dad, why are the countries on television better than mine? Why does my country not look as beautiful as the ones I see on television? And he said to me that it's a matter of how the countries are governed. And so I said, oh, wow. So why is our own country not governed in the way that we can be this beautiful? I was a precocious child that enjoyed conversations with my dad. So he said, well, we just don't have the kind of leaders to make our country as beautiful. And so I said, when I grow up, I will make sure that our country is beautiful. I was speaking as a child, but that thought followed me into adulthood. And so I was this restless being that wanted people to be accountable. That also was why, by the time I was in the professions, I became one of the co-founders of Transparency International globally.
Yeah.
So that part of me, very anxious for a society that works. You could say it started pretty early, and so I trained as a chartered accountant in Deloitte & Touche, one of the top global firms, and then I was in private sector, but I was a civic active, I would say, an active citizen in private sector. And then co-founded Transparency International. I was the only woman who chaired what was then known during the military era when they cancelled the election of 1993 in my country. That was the election in which I voted for the first time because we had military rule all through most of the time that we were growing. Okay, military rule before our civil war and military rule after our civil war. It wasn't until 1979 that we had a transition to democracy. And at that time, I could not vote. It wasn't until, and then by 1983 or thereabouts, that the second term of the administration in democracy was aborted by the military. And so back to military rule. So the first time I then got a chance to vote ever in my life, as one born in 1963, it was in 1999 that I voted for in 1993 that I voted for the first time in my life. And I voted in 1993 for the first time in my life, and then you canceled the election because the military was not ready to go. Oh boy, I was a professional already, and there were other professionals who felt as bad as I felt, and so there was an organization formed known as Concerned Professionals, and I was one of the leaders of that organization. Eventually became the chair of that organization. So in this story of my life, you can see a restlessness about governance. Yes. And so I, many times, years after, I engage on this matter, and then I end up in government. And then I carried my championship of good governance into government, and in the various roles that I had in government, it was about good governance. Looked at it from that perspective, and I was part of President Obasanjo's economic team that was known as the Dream Team because of the kind of reforms that were globally respected reforms. So we then leave government. I left government earlier than the administration ended. Before the administration ended, I was globally recruited, and I became vice president of the World Bank, responsible for Africa region. I engage with African countries, and I see the similarity between what was going on in my country that we had to deal with and what the rest of the continent was going through. Now, in all of that, the kind of difference it made for us to have been in government, there were a collection of us in that administration that pushed the limits of what could be done. And then I come back years after, and the politics has unraveled most of the progress that was made. And the next thing, girls were abducted. Yeah. And the government could not be bothered, didn't show what we know social contract requires of government. It was like, these girls are children of the poor, so if the children of elites like myself had vanished suddenly from their school, the whole country would be, the government would do everything. Yeah. But it was like, couldn't be bothered. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't accept this. This is exactly what this lack of empathy in governance is about, and I'm going to resist it. So I together with other women and men, embodied a campaign saying these girls deserved the justice of rescue by the Nigerian state. And I then give my time to it because the government decides to be adversarial about our asking for accountability. That government loses election. Another government comes on the wing on the promise that it was going to get
Bring
those girls
back
back, repeats the same behavior as the government it's sent out of office. Does not think that it needed to be accountable for these girls. In governance, once you enter into office, you've inherited the assets and the liabilities of governance. So we hold on to firmly to the fact that they must give justice to the girls. Campaigned for an additional almost 6 years until COVID. By the time of 2018, when I saw the despicable behavior of that particular administration toward the girls, it just dawned on me that, wait a minute, our politicians are simply acting in the same way. And that perhaps what's going on is that we have given too much latitude to these sets of people to think that they have an imperial right to lord it over the country. And so I said, I have to do something. It's either I just ignore Nigeria and not bother myself, or I continue to hold people who did not care to be held accountable to accountability. We've done it for years. Nothing substantial had happened. Or I would have to do something different, which my husband said, baby, I know you hate politics, but perhaps this is time for you to signal that politics is actually something that people like you in this country, on this continent, should participate in. Because the quality of the people doing the politics does not match to the expectations that we have for our continent. And so I decided to run for office. That's how I ran for office of president, and on the ticket of a small party that said that they believed in my values. It turns out they didn't believe in my values. They thought that I was going to be a meal coupon, because having worked for the World Bank as vice president, I must have many angles to bring in money that the party and the officials could, enjoy. And I say to them, guys, no, I'm running a different kind of campaign. I'm running a campaign where the citizens will understand their power and want to embody this campaign. It didn't work out well because they were determined on the money cost. Wanted me to just, all of your contacts around the world, they would give us money. And I'm like, excuse me, guys, what does the Electoral Act say about campaign financing? Stop this nonsense. They wouldn't be persuaded. After, realizing that I was wasting my time with a bunch of people whose values were totally at variance with mine, I decided that I would rather not run for this office than compromise with these fellows. So it was a fundamental clash in values. And so I faced the country and painfully said I was stepping down from running. And I was already a candidate. I was on the ballot 3 weeks to the election. I did that. But I was on the one hand, I was so grossly embarrassed and disappointed at how things turned out. But on the other hand, I was very, very pleased, because I felt if my dad were here, he would have been so proud of me that I defended my values, because he had raised me on the note, he had raised me and my siblings on the note that nothing is worth negotiating your values for.
Very, very few people would do that on the political space.
Oh, no, sorry, not, I don't fall into the average. So I made that decision, and then I said, my goodness, someone like me now made a decision to go into politics, and this is what happens. There's something about politics in Africa that needs to be studied so that we can understand it. Otherwise, I've done advocacy for good governance. I decided to enter into politics. This is the way it's ended. What's the future like? At this point, I was no longer in career. I'd done it. I'd been minister at a very young age, gone to the World Bank at a very young age, left the World Bank at a reasonably young age of 49. And so I wasn't interested in jobs. I wasn't interested in doing any jobs. So this issue of saying we need to structurally transform our society had now become my cause celeb, right? So I went away to Berlin, Germany as a Richard von Weizsäcker Fellow to do this research on how does this politics correlate or cause the situation we have with Africa's poor performance. And so that's what's known as fixed politics research.
Yeah.
So that research looked at the nexus between Africa's quality of politics and its economic performance. So it was from that we now propounded this theory of change, where we say that if you're going to structurally transform Africa's politics, you have to carry out initiatives that would raise the political influence of the electorate, and then you would have to build the electorate being the demand side of politics, and that you would have to change the political culture of the politicians, that is the supply side of politics, and then you would have to reform the regulatory context in which the electorate and the politicians meet. So that is what we know as the triangular pillars of democracy. And on that supply side of the politicians and changing the political culture, our solution is different levels of leadership development. And so the core one for us is the schools of politics, policy, and governance that are unconventional schools that you could call public leadership development systems.
Just let me ask you, because I need to refer so I don't make a mistake of the name. It's
SPPG.
SPPG. Yes.
SPPG.
So SPPG is across, of course, Africa. You're currently in 3 countries, right?
Yes.
There's Nigeria, Senegal,
and
Kenya now.
Yeah.
And it would be important just to understand what would be the expectations of the people that go through this SPPG, and since of course you've been running in Nigeria, what has been the impact?
Yes.
And what do we expect from Kenya?
Yes. So we following the research, we were able to form a community of people who are like me from across the country and from across different professional endeavors, so it's representative of our society, but it's what the group that you could call the coalition of the willing, those who are interested in transforming their political system in order to get economic progress, right? So we then designed the school and started the first cohort in 2020. By 2021, we graduated what we know as a pioneer class. By 2021, 2022, we had graduated about 200 plus people. 2023, before our third cohort graduated in October, then our elections, our general and presidential elections, happened in February, March. Guess what? 55 of our graduates ran for office for the first time ever in their lives. These are people who are mid-level career people from professions like law, accountancy, banking, development, civil society, because we really go for the top of the cream of society. Like when you look at the Kenyan millennials or even the Gen X's in their 40s, and as the case may be, you look at some of the Gen Zs, they are really accomplished already in terms of having track record of what they have been able to achieve with their lives. And now you're trying to get them to say, why are you all sitting around and allowing those that do not have the mastery and do not have the ethics of public leadership to run roughshod over you. You should be replacing the generation of politicians, the cadre of politicians that are failing you. You can't simply hope that something will change. Nothing is going to change. That's what my research showed, that there is a dominant political culture on our continent that subordinates, that causes the extant, that is the existing political class, to act in ways that are ruinous to their society and the public interest. Why? Because they act in ways that put their personal gain and interest over that of the collective. Okay? So if you're going to change that kind of a dominant culture, you have to find a counterculture. That counterculture can only happen if you massively educate a new set of people who would have the character, that is the ethics, the ethical culture, and they would have the competence of how to, they can follow issues of governance across the sectors that are necessary to be understood so that you can make the right public decisions around those issues. And they have to be capable people. You have equipped them with the tools of being able to solve complex problems of public interest. So we have our reason for training people as being that we want to have a massive number of Kenyans or Nigerians in politics that have character, competence, and capacity, and that our customized curriculum that is anchored on the unique issues that governments, whether you're in government as a president, a vice president, a member of parliament, a governor, the things that you need to know, the person that you need to be in order to make most of the times the right decisions concerning your country. So those are the people we're training. We're training a new political class
and
for
that
a continent.
Is needed in Kenya for sure.
We're training a new political class.
Yeah.
And some people, when we talk of it this way, they think, oh, you're just being romantic. That is not possible. Well, we're doing it. How can you imagine that we 55 out of the first two cohorts picked up? These are professionals that had never thought of running for office. But somewhere in that society, they were sitting there and saying, how can I do this? Yeah. How could I do this? What path should I follow? And suddenly, they saw that there is a path. So what do you think they did? They came for it. So we're in our fifth cohort, but there are 4 cohorts. We already have 754 graduates.
Congratulations on that.
I'm telling you, from our school. And then our first country outside of Nigeria, Senegal, started a year and a half ago. And we did the graduation of the first cohort I think it must have been in February or March, And so Kenya is starting anytime soon. I think what we have now is that the applications, the admission process has begun. Mm-hmm. If I am a Gen X, if I am a millennial, if I am a Gen Z who is done some really important things with my life, and I know that somewhere in my blood there is a desire to serve the public and serve the public ethically and with competence and capacity. I shouldn't just listen to a talk about SPPG Kenya and walk away. I should act. I should act.
And for them to act, where do they apply? Is there like a website?
There is a sppgkenya.org as a website, but they can even find it by just going to the SPPG handle on Twitter, or Instagram. They can find it on
TikTok.
I'm not sure about TikTok yet. I think they're on Twitter. They are on Facebook. They are on Instagram. They are on LinkedIn. So you can find it there. And frankly, when you think of the Kenyans who are designing this process, because what we do essentially is to say, hey guys, this is a model that we have. If you really care to achieve the same thing of changing, because we want to change our political class. It cannot be just a few people. It has to be you train massively. If Kenyans, like our own vision for our country, get to the point where you have had like 10,000 people over the next decade or two be people that have been trained to be a different genre of public leaders. The benefit.
We just need 300 and then we can have them in Parliament in 2027.
Yeah, but you have to keep replenishing.
I'm saying between now and the next election, we just need 300. So Kenyans, if you heard that, don't miss out. Go to SPPG and SPPG
actually,
Kenya.
If you go to thesppg.org, it will take you to the Kenyan page.
Fantastic. Kenyans, don't miss out the opportunity.
Yes.
Fantastic space, and I am going to be among the leaders on that,
Amazing.
On that training.
I'm so excited, Sarah,
so I'm already excited about it.
Yes, to personify what we're looking for. We're looking for societies that are inclusive. So, the SPPG Kenya community, that is the Fixed Politics Kenya community, it is chaired by Ambassador Erastus Nwenche, so it has people like Dr. Njoki, and now I lost my memory in terms of the last name, but you have people like Nerima, your friend.
Nerima Wako.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So you have really impressive. There's Winnie. There's Bina. When I look at those young women, I look at Diane. They are just amazing. They are totally committed to, and that they're the ones carrying it. So we don't sort of come as Nigeria and we're trying to do. No. It's basically let's look at this model. Let's replicate it. That's what we did in Senegal. The Senegals are running their school. The Kenyans will run their school. And usually, the beauty of the SPPG program is the quality of the faculty that we normally line up. The Nigerian faculty is 94 people. It is made up of academics, experts, and practitioners of the highest quality. So we have academics that teach from the top schools in Nigeria, in Africa, and the rest of the world. So in the rest of the world, for example, we have academics who are teaching from out of Yale, out of Harvard, out of Sussex, out of LSE, out of the Hittig School of Governance in Berlin, Germany, and such like, right? In practitioners, take a typical course in the Nigerian curriculum, which also would be in the Kenyan curriculum, public financial management. Guess who teaches it in the SPPG? It is the man who was a governor of the Central Bank of Guinea, Conakry. Then he became Minister of Finance. Then he was also Minister of Minerals. Then he's an academic also, but a practitioner academic. Then he became the ambassador of Guinea to Washington, to America, to the US. He is a faculty.
Wow.
You have practitioners like a Rosa Whitaker who teaches global trade. She was the assistant trade representative of the United States for Africa.
So it's very experiential.
It's experiential. It is theoretical because we need leaders who can follow theoretical frameworks. Yeah. It's very important. And then you have this experiential dose that is huge on it. And then, someone like me, I'm on the faculty, You know, I teach in Nigeria, I teach in Senegal, some of the key aspects that really border on those issues of how, one of the courses I teach is evidence-based policy making for results. When I teach that class, I teach it from a theoretical as well as a practical, because I have been the theory, you know, in my training as an economic policy expert, I have all of that theory, but then I have been in government as a minister. And I have done reform beyond, aside from being a minister. I have been part of an presidential economic team, delivering on some specific reforms. Like I reformed the country's public procurement system. On the basis of that, the country knows me as Madam Due Process. You know,
I love that.
Sanitizing the public procurement system. Yeah. So when I'm teaching in class, it's a different kind of engagement of the teaching process. So in Senegal, their faculty is about, I think theirs is even 96. And a lot of their faculty are French speakers who are academics, who are practitioners, who are experts. When people have looked at our programs across these two countries so far, what they say is the faculty that SPPG offers people is way above the average faculty of universities in Africa.
Wow.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
And now that you've touched about the faculty members and women leadership, I would want to look at it on the continental level. At the moment, we just have 2 female presidents, one in
elected
Tanzania.
Female presidents, yes.
One is not even elected. It was just the former president of Tanzania passed on.
Didn't she eventually win an election?
The election is coming up.
Oh, it's still coming up.
Yes,
that's true.
Yes. So we have President Samia Suluhu, and we have the president of Namibia. Nandia, something. I forget the second name. When you look at that level in a country of 55...
In a continent
of 54, yes. Yeah. When you look at that and the way women have struggled to get to the top, what is this SPPG bringing to maybe have more women at the top?
So we are a 50-50 equality school. Basically, what that means is that we are deliberate in making sure that as many women as men are coming into our school. And so in the case of Nigeria, the first year, we didn't achieve anything close to that. We had only about 27% of women and dominant male participation. And then by the second cohort, we inched up a little to 34% because we were deliberate. We were looking in the networks where women operate. With the SPPG, you can't just put out an advert and hope that people would see it and then apply. No, we would actually target who we want to come into the school. So we send the information on SPPG to professional bodies. We send to women, groups like the Women in Business, WIMBIZ in Nigeria. It's an influential. It really brings together women entrepreneurs and at a very high professional level. Women's Society of Accountants, for example, or the Women Association within the Nigerian Bar Association. So you target it that way with that kind of a deliberate outreach. What then happens is that more women are aware. What usually happens is that something can be done by both a male and a female, but the information doesn't get to the female. So that often is why you don't find women in some spaces. Just the lack of, what we call is asymmetry of information. Men have more information superior to what women have. So we've broken that down. We've broken that, and women have equal information on our programs. So by the fourth cohort, we now had 45% women. And then by this fifth cohort, guess what happened?
It's a switch.
We have 51.4%.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
And you know, and politics is not something that women want to do. Because like when I was running, I think it then brought some measure of, you know, because what is said is that even though we have had other female presidential candidates, when I ran, it was a signal. It was a major signal in the country. And we had, you know, comments that went in the direction of saying, this is the first time that a really, you know, top female presidential candidate has appeared on the political scene of Nigeria. That was important for many women who are professionals to feel, I can do this. I also, it's a safe space. If Obi Ezekwesili put herself out to do this, I also can do that, which is why I fight for the right of women who are in public leadership. I also have the honor of being the chair of women political leaders globally. This is the flagship organization in the world that women who are presidents or who were presidents or who are prime ministers or were prime ministers, women who are parliamentarians or were parliamentarians, women who served in cabinets around the world, they all belong to the women political leaders. And it's based out of Brussels. We are the ones that, together with the government of Iceland, established what is known as the Reykjavik Forum in Iceland. It holds a big summit of top-level women every year.
Wow.
In November in Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland. And so it is my duty as chair of the board of these women political leaders to look out for the issues of women in public leadership.
That's great.
And so it matters to me very much.
It matters.
That we can get more women into Africa's politics. Because, by the way, one of the interesting data, I talked about data, that we've seen is how when women participate in public leadership, we have seen almost a marginal improvement in the scores of the countries on governance and transparency.
I wanted to ask the question, but you've brought it up already. I was going to ask. When you look at the African continent, I think we've had one of the most famous was Ellen
Sirleaf Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, Johnson Sirleaf.
Yes. When you look, if we were to have more female presidents across the different countries,
right,
would the continent be different? If yes, why? If no, then why not?
I don't know. But there is, because we have to stay with data, right? So if what we see, even through Mo Ibrahim Foundation's rankings on governance, if we've seen that the countries that have higher percentage of women in public leadership do better on the governance ranking, it's telling us something. And then those who have picked that data and said, let's understand it a little bit more, have said that there is a tendency for women in office to operate at a higher standard of values because it is much more shameful for a woman to be caught in corruption than for a man to be caught in corruption. So there is this moral expectation of women that also drives them in terms of the way that they are acting in public office. And then the second part of it is that women tend to be nurturers. So the issues of governance often border on how can we make life better for our children? How can we make life better for our young people? You know, women are carried that motherhood sense into the way they are making public decisions. So they have a tendency to want to find options that are better for more people than to say it's all about myself. So there's less egotistical, basis for decision making. So maybe that's part of what we're saying. Because after all, you know that during COVID, the countries that had the least morbidity from COVID, fatality from COVID, were countries that were being led by women. It was incredible. It was incredible. And so there was this whole research as to how did this happen. So what they found commonly across these countries was that when that outbreak happened, when that COVID outbreak happened in the world, that the women were so shaken as leaders. They were frightened by the thought that under their leadership they would see their citizens dying. So they were much more open to ideas. The men acted differently. They just sort of wanted to be masculine about it. So they were not saying that, hey, we need to find. So they were less transparent, and they were less accommodating of ideas that could. So you found that more men denied COVID than the women that were in office. So whether it was the woman in the then president of the then prime minister of New Zealand, or that's president of Thailand, or that of Chancellor Merkel of Germany. There were quite a collection of them at that time. There were at least about 7 presidents that were running, or prime ministers that were running countries that had the least fatality in as a result of COVID-19, so pandemic. So there is something that more research has to unearth about this idea of female leadership, leadership expressed by women. But for me, I would say that if men have governed our countries most of the time, and this is the result they have produced, then if we're rational enough, we should say there are 2 genders. One gender has produced this kind of result. Why don't we test and see whether the other gender
can do better?
Can do better.
That would be interesting for my home country, that is Kenya, of course. And
what I love is that there are men who actually today are thinking that way.
Yeah,
they are saying things like, maybe our women will rescue us from this situation.
Maybe that's a maybe, and maybe Kenyans, we should give it a try. I mean, let's just wait for 2027 and see. Something else I would want to understand: you've worked across different nations.
Yes.
In the continent, what's the place of diplomacy in politics, and how critical is it for a nation?
Oh, diplomacy is so important in politics, but one of the saddest things that we've seen with diplomacy, interestingly, I have this very diverse range of academic interests. I do have a master's in international law and diplomacy. My mom used to say she studied diplomacy, but she's not diplomatic.
It was for the books.
I am very candid. I'm known for my candor.
No diplomacy language.
Like I say to people, call a spade, not an agricultural implement. And that takes me to that question you asked, which is that, today's diplomacy cannot be based on deceit, because we are in a global world where there's so much more information available to all. So when you're trying to do diplomacy of deceit, people can call you out.
Yeah.
So what is important in diplomacy today is for whether you're the topmost leader or a middle-ranking leader, as long as you are a voice for your society, you have to have the facts, and you need to use the facts to make sound arguments, and you also have to be respectful of the other side, even when you disagree. you know, and that is a thing that requires sophistication, and that is part of why attending the SPPG is really a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You just have to attend the SPPG if you're going to, because these are the things that, you know, one of our courses has to do with, actually two of our courses really have to do with this whole culture of diplomacy and the skills of communication and poise and etiquette, you know. So these are things, these are things that are so important. For example, I am normally shocked that because people have not been prepared for public office, you can go to a dinner of presidents and prime ministers and ministers, top public officials of a country, and I have been in those, I'm frequently in those, even up until today in my life, and you see people who are scooping their food with spoon. How do you use it? You can scoop your rice with spoon. It's so totally, you can take liberty and do that when you're sitting in your home.
Yeah.
Because some people say, I like it with my spoon because I throw it in. And it's better. Some of it will not fall off the spoon, but with fork, it could fall off. But you know, there's an etiquette of eating in the public. You know, so those kinds of basic things, just operating at a level of sophistication that is ennobling of your society, you know, because leadership comes with nobility also. And all of these things, these niceties, you can say, oh, that is not, it is part of it. It is part of it. Just being able to know how that you can disagree but not be disagreeable. You can object but not be objectionable. You know, those kinds of things are the ethos of diplomacy.
Very critical, I see. When you look at the world we are in today, we have a Trump presidency in the United States, and his presidency has actually shaken the whole world, as I mean, the world over. Very particular for Africa. When he got in, some of the first orders were to withdraw the global funding, the aid that was coming. With that sort of governance that he's taking for his country, what does that mean for Africa? And then does it mean now Africa has to shift how we operate, or do we now submit and just swing the way he wants leaders to swing?
There is absolutely no reason why our continent should swim the way any other part of the world wants us to swim. I love this quote from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the founding leader of Ghana, and the frontline leader of our continent. Pan-Africanism came from him, and a couple of including your founding leader,
Jomo
Kenyatta. He said, Africa does not have to look to the east, nor to the west. Africa needs to look to the future. It needs to look forward.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yes.
So we should by all means be friends with everybody, but we have our own agency. We cannot continue to cower and just be a humanitarian case for the world. We need, which is why this matter of fixing our governance and this matter of a design approach that is making us be the ones. The SPPG, the fixed politics, is not something that some foreigner has taught for us and has asked us to come and implement. No, it is us as Africans saying, hey, we now see the greatest obstacle to our development. It is poor governance, and you can't get to governance without politics. So we have to fix our politics so that we can get good governance, so that we can have the right policies, the right institutions, the right investments, and we will begin to grow. That is the simple definition of this theory of change that we're implementing. So on the basis of that, therefore, we as Africans, we see the changing global reality. The funding architecture for development is markedly changed because, as you know, the U.S. is a is a military power, economic power, diplomacy power. So in every sense of the word, the leader of the world. And so the same US that benefited very much from global cooperation has decided that global cooperation and global trade will no longer serve its purpose because of a new president in President Trump. And when that happens, we just go back to our drawing table. And I think that the greatest thing for me is when I have seen the younger generation of Africans say, hey, wait a minute, how much of impact has development assistance really had? When they ask that question, I say to them, you're asking a question of how has governance failed us? Because other countries that got development assistance and still get India, China, they deployed development assistance differently because they had effective governance systems. So we failed to put effective governance systems. We failed to have the kind of quality of political leaders that were making decisions for our own benefit. And so when we cry and say, oh, these people are doing this to us, no, our crying should start first from home, right? Because you have to tell yourself the truth. If you don't own a problem, you cannot solve it. So taking ownership of the problem means that we're going to sit at the table right now and say, okay, some things have changed around the world. How are we going to adjust ourselves? So you know that first thing you have to do is to say our domestic resources. How do we ensure that we're getting more for the buck? You know, so public expenditure management to ensure that you're squeezing value. So those who enjoyed all kinds of fancy things in the name of we're the big men that are ruling you right now. And, you know, because I am the president, I am entitled to a good life. I need a befitting palace. Is that a priority for the country? You have to be asking those questions. Every Kenyan shilling has to be accounted for in terms of the value that it will bring, the impact for the larger number. So those kinds of things begin to change the way that we're engaging ourselves in the reality that is different. We have to say, how do we, create more? How do we create more? Look at Kenya. Look at the innovation that M-Pesa brought. I was VP at the bank, and when M-Pesa happened, it was an innovation, global innovation, because mobile money hadn't become a thing. And here it was happening in Kenya. I was like, come on, this is Africa's innovation, And what happened was, I think it's, the gentleman from Safaricom. I am trying to remember. Joseph.
Michael Joseph.
Yes, Michael Joseph. I actually brought him to the bank as our innovation fellow for the Africa region. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We contributed him to South Asia region and to Southeast Asia region to go and talk to them about mobile money. That was innovation out of Kenya. Think of the kind of creativity and innovative mindset of your young people. Technology. I normally say that there are three things, compelling things that will push Africa into its development in the 21st century. I say it is women, young people, and technology. Kenya has got all three.
Yes, we
can. You imagine having governments that are effective? They will understand this. So they will enable these three things to really collectively push in that direction. So when I look at Africa, I just know that if we fixed governance, the world would have to know that we failed only because we did not act quickly.
So, in your opinion, I know there's a book that talks about debt aid. Has the aid that has come to us since independence been worth
that's all I just said, which is that, others used aid. Aid is not a bad thing in the sense of what we saw with the Marshall Plan. Germany was a heap of rubble at the end of the Second World War. And then there was a plan for aid, massive aid to Europe, not just to Germany. Europe was leveled. So there was development assistance to rebuild it. There was development assistance for South Korea, for Japan. It's happened across the world. The issue, it's China. By the time it embraced the world and came out of its, iron curtain, India, when it came out of autarky, they have been beneficiaries of aid. So the issue has been, how is it that one group of people used their assistance well, and another group of people mostly ended up with poor results? It was always at the center of the way that I engaged the countries of the continent when I was on that side of development assistance. Because I was vice president of the World Bank, and I wanted to fix that nonsense of African countries not getting the benefit of additional money and the knowledge that our own development assistance from the bank brings is even more important. In fact, China valued the knowledge so much. When I was VP at the World Bank, I'd go as a guest of the Chinese government, and they would be thanking me for the for the support that the bank gave them all through the years. I'm telling you, because McNamara was the bank president that met with Deng Xiaoping, who was the reformer president of China in the 70s. And he said to him, we're poor, but we believe that we will be like the rest of the world eventually. We can try to do it ourselves, but if the World Bank would help us, we'll do it faster. It's a quote.
Quite sad.
It's a quote. And you know what McNamara did? There was the first decentralization of bank staff to any country. He took the best of the bank experts in the different fields. In fact, one of the things that they would take me to are the agriculture sector of China in my time at the bank, and they would show me the bank programs of that era. And you know that agricultural reform was the beginning of China's revolution, because initially agriculture was based on communism, where we all will own a little piece of land, and whatever we all grow, we will all, be given little pieces of the outcomes, because the state will take everything we grow, and then, so the reform of the agriculture sector, where property rights were now recognized and people were freed. So they brought market principles into the agriculture sector. So you get your land and you decide how much work you want to do. Because in Africa, we say that the goat that everybody owns is the one you see after midnight roaming the street. There's no incentive for any individual to want to take care of this goat that is owned collectively. Yeah. So once they understood the power of the markets, where you give people their freedom, their economic freedom to put their best effort, people just really say, while the other families are sleeping, my family and I, we will work all night, because after all, we'll keep all the benefits to ourselves. So that freed China. And that was how, through the agricultural revolution, they then became a country that understood market incentives. They went from that to next level of sophistication to the China we see today. Wow. That has lifted more than 800 million people out of poverty. Yes. So it can be done. If there's anything for us as a continent, it is that it can be done. It can even be done faster, because China and India got their growth When people say, how do you tackle poverty? It is by growing. If your economy is not growing and growing in the right kind of way, you can never tackle poverty. Yeah, growth is what lifts people out of poverty. So they grew in the right kinds of ways because they took hold of knowledge to be able to design the right kinds of policies across sectors of their economies, and understood the concept of comparative advantage and the expertise that was necessary to, so the quality of the people in their governments mattered. You don't go and say, I like my cousin, he's going to do so and so for Kenya. What's your cousin's business with governance in Kenya?
Nothing at all. Zero.
He doesn't bring anything to, in expertise. He doesn't bring anything in terms of the ethics. The fact that you're even thinking of your cousin as the only person who has an idea to solve the problem in Kenya is a problem already. Yeah. Because the conflict of interest that's involved in that and all of that. So because of the way that they accessed and used development assistance, they have better outcomes than we have had. Think of a place like DRC. It got a lot in terms of development assistance in the time of, say, Mobutu Sese Seko. Most of it was ferreted into private accounts. It's the story of development assistance on our continent.
Sad story.
Not a sad story. It is a sad story. And that for me is what the mindset that has to shift, which is why when the Gen Zs are saying to presidents in their countries, you have no business enjoying the resources of the state and making hopeless decisions that are not favorable to the population just because you're president.
Yeah.
That is a pathway to our freedom.
And we love it. Every time, especially our Kenyan politicians speak to us, and we've read in history, we've always been told that during independence, Kenya and Singapore were on the same level in terms of GDP.
Yeah.
Today,
the data is there.
We only dream of a Kenyan Singapore. And we've been promised oftentimes. I'm not sure if we are getting
your
there.
GDP per capita is a little less than $2,000. It's about $1,842 GDP per capita, meaning if you took your gross domestic product, that is the goods, the services, everything that can be attributed to Kenyan action, Kenyan effort, and divided it amongst your population, each person will be entitled to would have $1,842 or thereabouts as their piece. Singapore, similar to Nigeria, Kenya similar to Nigeria.
Yes.
Singapore started at about those levels of $300 something in the 60s. Today, Singapore is at $81,000 income per capita. That is about how many? Probably. It's about 42 times or thereabouts of the Kenyan GDP.
Yeah.
Nigeria has become worse now. Our GDP got to as far as $3,000+. Poor economic policies over the last, say, 10, 12, 13 years has thrown us down to GDP per capita less than what we had in the 90s. We're now below 1,000 income per capita. Do you get it? So the recklessness of leadership is not something that we should tolerate. It is not something that we should enable. Otherwise, we are accomplices. Citizens have been accomplices to their own detriment.
That is very true. And when you look at Africa, some of the people that have gotten tired with that have decided we can't continue with this. And unfortunately, or fortunately for them, they've decided we will take over power through a coup. And that has happened in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. And currently, actually, Burkina Faso is everyone's eyes are on that country, and there's a lot of positive things coming. I mean, I know democracy is the right way.
Yes.
But if a democracy does not work, and maybe what Ibrahim Traore is doing is working, then Is it something that the young people should consider across?
So, because I am a long-term thinker, I always am not quick at saying, hey, this is a great, thing. The reason being that we also have to remember what the past can predict about the future.
Yeah.
We know that the past in West Africa, we saw many early signs when we had the culture of military coups. It used to be the habitual. You had less of that in East Africa.
Yeah.
But in West Africa, coups were the order of the day in the years that I was growing. And sometimes you saw a coupist leader who would, in the early moments, they would do things that are populist, and everybody would say, yeah, the Messiah is here. And then you look over the long term and you say, oh dear, what is this?
Wrong turn.
And then another group will do a coup and send that one home. And then that one would say, I have come to correct all the things that are, and then you say, oh, okay, maybe we have somebody who is really going to do. So because of that, I am less, quick at saying, hey, here comes a savior. So it is important to acknowledge that what we have experienced in West Africa, all through if you looked since independence, has been that militarization has not in any way given us any better outcomes. In fact, it gave worse outcomes. When you plot the economic growth of countries during their military era and then during moments of fairly decent democracy periods, you found that growth did better under democratic context than military context, which is also part of why when people sort of say, oh, democracy has failed us, I say, no, it's the practice of democracy that has failed us. You see, because the practice of democracy and democracy as a principle are two different things. So our practice of democracy has been in the breach. If you're practicing democracy, democracy expects that the institutional mechanisms of democracy should be allowed to function. So you need to have an independent judiciary. You need to have a parliament that is accountable to the people and, standing for the collective interests of the people. You can't have a democracy where most of the people in the parliament go to have tea in the house of the president every day, and then they depend on the president to bury their mother for them and do all kinds of things. So they are not holding the president accountable. The basic principles of democracy expect separation of powers. Right? Separation of power and the independence of basically checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
But we don't practice all of this. Then we turn around and say democracy has failed us. You haven't practiced democracy, guys. So to practice democracy, you have to have citizens that understand their power in democracy. You can't say democracy has failed us when half of your citizens who are middle class don't think that caring about how they are governed is important. It was Plato that said that those who think that politics is beneath them will be ruled by their inferiors. Is that not the story?
It
Across
is.
our countries.
Very,
so,
very.
you have these sophisticated Kenyans, they wear their suit, they wear their this thing, and they're speaking perfect Queen's English, but then who are they bowing to and saying honorable to?
People who've not been to school.
Why? Because they looked away from democracy. So when you haven't practiced democracy properly, don't immediately say it doesn't work. Because in instances where just a little bit of, compliance with the principles, openness of systems in democracy, it has also led to, better governance decisions, which have then led to better growth rates for the continent.
True.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
So I would say that we need to keep observing what's going on in the countries where we have of our continent, where we have had a truncation of democracy. We keep an eye on it and not sort of say be enamored of that. That the fact that democratic rights are important for society means let's not be too quick to embracing the idea of the one-man rule, the charismatic leader. That has its sell-by date.
That's true. This, I will put a very open question, and let's just be sincere with this one, if you don't mind.
Oh, you don't think we've been sincere?
No.
You've been asking
those ones have been very
questions.
They were very sincere. This one is
you sincere answers. I don't know about your questions.
I'm putting a disclaimer because I know it might cause a lot of comments of people feeling like you left out their leader. But my question is, now you see why I said sincere. Who would you term as your best African leader at the moment, and why? See, now you needed to be sincere. Sitting presidents at the moment.
I have to tell you that that's a very difficult question, because I recently took a look at our countries, and I looked at the performance of our countries on the continent, and I now said to myself, that is why what we're trying to do in fixing politics is the most important thing that Africans must find themselves collectively doing. I do not have an answer. There are people who are promising at this time. We want to keep an eye on what's going on in Namibia. We want to keep an eye on what's going on in Botswana. I recently taught a class at Harvard of ministers, and so the vice president of Botswana is also their minister of finance, which was always the model they had during even the time of Festus Mohai, So their ideas, their thoughts are, in these early times, are looking promising. The young president in Senegal is trying to deal with a lot of the backlog of consequences of poor policy choices and governance more broadly. Keeping an eye on our sister in Namibia, who is saying the right things so far, hoping that her cabinet is strong enough so that they can make the really right kinds of decisions. The returned president of Ghana, John Mahama, has made a promise that he will not fail in the way that he failed last time, and that he now has more experience of what not to do. And he made personal promises to me on that, because, when I see our presidents, that's what I mean by being candid.
Yeah.
I just see myself as their citizen, and I just tell them what I see, because I work with data. I work with facts, so when you look at it in that way, I think you can see that maybe there are a little shoots that are coming out in some of these countries that I've talked about. We keep looking at the president in Tanzania and hoping that, maybe when she gets her own legitimacy through by running for office and gaining it, it would improve the kind of influence that she can have, because when the party sees itself as so powerful, it could restrain some of the things that you would have to do. A president in office is not a joke, and then in party politics, if the analysis that my fixed politics research did was basically showed that the thing is that the political parties have become monopolies. They've become monopolies. It doesn't matter what party. It doesn't matter what acronym they have. Their mindset is the same. It is that we are the ones supposed to enjoy on behalf of the rest of the citizens. So the corruption that happens, the perversion of public decisions that happen in order to give them the public, to give them their private gain over and above the public good, if it's become a culture so that we have a perverse political culture on our continent, if a person who says, I want to reform, I'm a reformer, and I want to make sure that reforms happen, if that person happens to somehow accidentally be getting to office and they are sitting as president, but the structures that they are governing, presiding over, are structures that say, all that your reform you're talking about, you're on your own. You know that there will not be, it would be hard for them to forcefully push the reforms, because vested interests can frustrate and pervert policy decisions. You can even make the decisions, but because they are vested interests, they will find ways of making it impossible. There have been presidents who sat in the office thinking that some policy decision that they agreed, policy decisions they agreed are being implemented. And then because they are not paying good attention or not getting feedback from constituents, they assume they've done it. Meanwhile, they just walked away from him. The minister said to the PAM side, don't do it.
In Kenya, they call them the cartels.
Yeah.
Well fixed.
The cabals. Cartels, cabals. And they live for their own interest. So so what goes on is that a president could be well-meaning, but the structures around are saying, what are you trying to do? You want to dismantle the beneficial landscape that we have operated in. You will know that, I think it was yesterday we were having a conversation about the political class as well as the bureaucrats. These two are the problems of our continent. So the civil servants are doing their own, and the politicians are doing their own, and they often find their places of convergence, right?
And the citizens are left.
And the citizens are left. And if the citizens continue to sit like, in Nigeria, I think, what do we call them? Mumus. Mumu means a dull lad. Just sitting there, hoping that Jesus Christ will come and fix the thing that they should fix. It will not happen.
True
that is why I go back to where we started from. The Gen Z is saying, we do not accept this. It's the first step. When the Chinese say that, the journey of 1,000 miles requires a step or starts with a step. I normally just sort of add that it starts with the right first step. The Gen Zs being angry at low quality of governance is the necessary first step. The rest of the steps that they now need to take would be done in level-headed mode of being strategic, of having organizational skills, of respecting data, empirical evidence, of being evidence-informed in the choices they are making, of having a certain level of trust of themselves and their instincts. If you want to know whether you can trust somebody, why don't you look at the trajectory of the person? You don't immediately think this person is not good. But on the basis of what did you conclude that? You have to go and find who knows this person. So you can find your leaders of integrity by simply basic checks. What have they done in the past? And you can find your leaders. If you're saying that all of you are bad, then what difference would happen? If we now got all, if we got you into government, you've already told us that all of you are bad. So surely all of you are not bad. So that capacity to be contemplative, to be reflective, to put depth into the thoughts that they are having would help them to organize even better. So that necessary first right step will lead to the second right step, to the third, to the fourth. And before you know it,
we'll
really have an entirely different culture of engagement of governments.
That's true.
And governance.
I look forward to that day, and I hope the Kenyan Gen Zs, especially since we have been having a lot of complaints, that the words of wisdom given will be taken seriously. Something else that holds Africa somehow is the conflicts that we have seen across in West Africa, Congo, Rwanda, South Sudan, Sudan. I mean, who are these people that have decided then Africa will not know peace, and for what interests?
Internal and as well as external actors. Internal and external actors. And in the field of economic policy, we've seen that a lot of conflicts come from access contests for rent from natural resources. Natural resources often induce a lot of conflict. And you know that whether it's gold or it's copper or it's oil or it's diamond, the benefits are important for those that are local as well as for those that are outside of the continent. So these actors are all over the place. And if you don't have good governance, it is very easy to become a casualty, So that is why, insecurity is tied to quality and effectiveness of governments. When you look at, there is the United States Fund for Peace. It normally does this study of countries in order to determine the resilience, the strength, as well as the fragility of states. So it's called the Fragility Index. It measures a number of things that show how countries are strong, and so you can't worry about whether they will collapse tomorrow. It has indicators around economy, around political resilience, stability. That's the word I was looking for. Stability. It looks at issues of social cohesion. It looks at control of your space, the strength of your bureaucracy. It measures a number of indicators. Guess which countries are at the bottom of the ranking? Most of it is Africans. So when you look at the first the topmost fragile state or bordering almost on a failed state, it would likely be an African country. Often it would be anything between Somalia, Sudan, and things like that. And even my country has always been on that ranking as the 13th most fragile, average ranking over years, 13th most fragile state in the world. So when you look at the data and you look at the countries and you put their rankings side by side, their economic performance or their political stability scores or their governance scores, you see that there's either a causal relationship or a correlation. So it means that if we want a secure Africa, we have to have effective governments. We have to have people in governments that are ethical, that are competent, and that are capable. People that are not selling their countries short. Some of the conflicts are actually born out of ego. The leader is egotistical, or, they are born out of their interests. They are born out of, a corruption of the interests of the larger society. We have to untangle or disentangle all the things that are the drivers of conflict. But a most significant driver of conflict is access to minerals because of the economic value of these minerals. I know that the AU, Peace and Security Commission, that is that department that has those issues around peace and stability of the continent.
And there's the IGAD also.
The IGAD, especially in the Horn of Africa. They're trying, but regional mechanisms cannot fix things if internal systems are not credible. That's why we still have to make sure that each of our African countries are running effectively and efficiently. There is no other path to prosperity, stability, and social cohesion than effective governance. I am screaming this loud all over. I've been doing this for decades. I believe that someday all Africans will hear this scream and they will understand why I am restless. I'm 62. I'm retired. I shouldn't, be bothering myself about a number of these things. But I can't rest. I just can't rest. Each time I see an African country just exemplifying all of the things that are wrong, I feel bad. It diminishes all of us. We can't be a continent that has bright lights, like we're world class, but our country is a mess. It's disgraceful.
Very disgraceful.
It's disgraceful. You can't be individually successful and then have collective shame and failure.
Wow.
I am the first African to be so and so. What is that? Is that what glory do you take in that? You are the first African to be something. What did he do for us? We want to be at, what we've seen is that people can come from behind in development and overtake others. Do you know that Singapore's 81,000 GDP per capita is twice that of the UK that colonized it? It is doable, my people. If we as Africans said to ourselves, this is not acceptable. I like when I wake up in the morning and I look at the situation and I say, I can't live with this. It's a moment of decision. And you know what follows that? Action.
I love it. Wow. The figure of Singapore still, I think, will stay in my mind for so long.
Yes. And some people would then say, oh, but Singapore is a very small country. So I say, okay, why isn't Burundi? Why isn't the Republic? Why isn't, why are they not the Singapores of our continent? Since it is small that you're using to judge. Why isn't Haiti? It's not about in fact, the bigger you are in terms of population, if you follow the principles of good governance, and you would have more opportunity. That's why population is useful to China. Your internal market alone is of 1-point-something billion people. Look at our continent. It's, cannibalized, or what do you call it, the piecing up of our continent into little.
Yeah, we've just been divided against each other.
So for you to now make it this thing, you have to go through the effort of regional integration with the multiple layers of barriers that enable you to have a seamlessness. That's why, the East African community is important, because you just want to pool your assets together, right? You want to pool the assets together, assets being your population, because with more population, you can say the East African market offers you a population as against, Kenya offers you a population that is not significant. So boardrooms are looking for size, they are looking for scale. in the case of China and India, these are one country. Is having that population. So you have to combine many countries, in Africa, and then we can say Africa gives you a market of 1.3 billion people. But those 1.3 billion people, before you get to the first 1 million of them, the kind of hurdles you have to fight with. So it means that it is harder for us to be an economic space that is meaningful for scale. People who are thinking of scale will not immediately think of us because they have too many barriers that they have to break through. Yeah. So when you look at us as a continent, there is so much work to be done on the table.
And the work has to be done by this generation.
By this generation with the right mindset. Yeah. Because look, my father has another quote. He said to us that character is the lasting currency of life. Character. All other currencies can fade. Somebody can get up and say, it's no longer Kenyan shillings. We're now going to do Swahili something, and that currency is gone, right?
Yeah.
But you see, a person of character unto death, it's the lasting currency. When every other person has been forgotten, faded into ignominy, a person of character continues to remain. So it's a lasting currency. We need that this Gen Z generation understand that at the end of the day, being angry, being an activist is not sufficient. You must be known for character, because character is the thing that mars the leadership process. That is the problem we're solving for. When you talk about corruption and selfishness and authoritarianism and all kinds of things that are perverse, it is a lack of character that leads to those kinds of behaviors. So it is important that our Gen Zs should say to themselves, what's my character quotient? Because it's easy to sit from where you are and point fingers and say they are just these kinds of people. All right, so we want to trust you with $1 million. What are you going to be doing at that point in time? So some people will say, I have character, only because the offer that is on the table is 1 million Kenyan shillings. They say, I have character. I refuse to take 1 million Kenyan shillings. So when the offer now comes and they say,
it's 100 million.
We have increased it. We can now give you 100 million Kenyan shillings. He will look to the right, to the left and say, hey, 100
This is what I want.
This is where character ends. Character doesn't get up to, so he collects it. What is that? You're gone. You're gone. Character means that, which is why he said that nothing is worth negotiating your values for. So even if it is you empty all the central banks, the wealth in all the central banks of the world, a person of character stays with their principles. That is, we need more and more of us as Africans who are those kinds of people. Because if it's only a few of us, it will still be problematic.
Yeah.
So when Africans say, oh, it's not the individual, it's institutions, who do you think builds institutions?
People.
And how do institutions emerge? From values. So values-based people build institutions.
Yeah.
When you look at the SPPG mission statement, it talks about building values-based leaders for public leadership, for political leadership. So without values, please don't tell us that you want to lead us. You can't tell me. Without values, you say you want to lead us. You're just going to be a younger version of the things that you detest.
You're fighting.
Yeah, you're fighting.
Wow. Dr. Obi, wow, that is, I've had such a deep, reflective conversation, and I hope our viewers also did. Thank you so much for coming through. By now, everyone should be joining SPPG.
I really look forward to us having a good problem. Because I mean, using when we said we wanted to train at scale, we knew that it couldn't be for us to be looking for money so that we can build big complexes where people will have to come to. So we decided technology is our tool.
Yeah.
That's why it's a virtual program, but it has elements of physical, because our students, as part of their training, deliver what we call capstone projects. It forces them to solve problems
in their communities.
You know, and then their group work also makes them to engage in theoretical solutions through what we call their discourse. You know, so really, it is a school where we want to train as many as possible. We are in a hurry to get these kinds of people who have character, who are competent, and who are capable.
And for sure you will.
We are doing it.
I love it.
I don't care. You know, we're not even, like, it's like, try stopping us.
Unless you have a problem. I think Kenyans, again, this is my call to you. If you can, especially the young people, do join SPPG. We are working towards better leadership come 2027, and this right here is the symbol or the sign that you have been looking for. Dr. Obi, thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been such an amazing and fulfilling conversation. I loved every bit of it. And hopefully, once during graduation, I want to believe you will be in Kenya.
I will be here.
And we can have you back.
And I would be, part of the faculty.
Fantastic.
I would teach a couple of the courses, like this evidence-based policy making. This is something that I live by it. In my advice to presidents, it's about, after I left the bank, I did work with as an economic advisor to a couple of reform-minded presidents of that era, and it was to help them design their policy, their economic policy strategies, and to help them ensure fruitful execution of them. So that course, for example, is important for me, that all leaders of our continent, whether they are in parliament or they are in the executive function, or even they end up in judiciary, I want it to be that they are evidence-informed decision makers.
I love that. And please, Kenyan leaders, be the first to enroll. You need it the most.
They will learn a lot of
They will learn a lot. Yeah, and I mean,
she's
she's part of the faculty. So if you enjoyed this episode to this end and you want more of her and a very informed faculty, do register. Thank you for watching.
By the way, one of the persons that will teach in the Kenyan faculty is an honorary faculty member, because our faculty members are honorary faculty members. Yeah. From around the world and our continent, is Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who was my teacher at Harvard, and then he was my boss. I worked with him afterward. And he's a great guy. He's a world-renowned economist. He's going to teach in the Kenyan program.
Wow. I mean, if you want to meet the rest of the faculty, of course, now you have to join. You can't tell them everyone who's going to be in.
Emma Sky of Yale University will teach, and things like that, So it's one of the faculty that will teach in the Kenyan program is a former minister of finance of Indonesia. That in their era, you should see the kind of economic growth that they registered. There's always a comparison of Nigeria and Indonesia. Our similarities are just almost wow. Population-wise, ethnicity-wise, political history-wise, both colonized, and the military adventurism-wise.
It's an adventure.
So just name it, geography-wise. But they have done better than us.
Yeah.
In terms of natural resources-wise. They've done better than us. So this, their former Minister of Finance is such a great guy.
All right. I love it already.
A great intellectual. So they kind of, in the Nigerian school, our students, when they first come into the program, they come to the first class and they say, "This is my best class," and we just start laughing because we know what's going to happen next. They come to the second class, no, this is my best class, and then they come to the third. So all through the time, we have in the Nigerian curriculum, it's 144 courses.
Wow!
Across economics, economic policy, political thought, political theory, governance, industry, the trade, sustainability, security, human development, infrastructure, so those important things that people will be making decisions on that are relevant to their specific countries. In the Kenyan curriculum, for example, we have a course on tourism, because tourism is an important sector for Kenyans. So you can't be a leader in Kenya. You are either an MP or an MCA, or you're a governor, you're a president, you're a vice president, and you don't know everything that needs to be known about tourism as a sector and as it relates to Kenya. You should go and look for
start at zero.
Go to another country.
I love that. Dr. Obi, because of time now, because I know you're heading somewhere after this, we have to end it at that. But thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. This has been an overflow of information, and I want to believe everyone that has been watching has time to reflect and, join the school. And hopefully when we're talking next, when we have the class that will be graduating, we will have you again just to review how that has been.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And it's been really lovely speaking with you.
Fantastic.
I've enjoyed it.
Great to hear that.
Thanks to your great team also.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job all the time. And to you who has been watching us to this end, thank you so much for watching Fanya Mambo Africa. See you on the next episodes.